Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, listeners, here we are again. This episode, we've got a gentleman, Jeffrey Walsh, a true New Yorker, and he's the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Global Ground Support. So, Jeffrey, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on board.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here today.
Good man, good man. Now, one of the questions we always start off with is, why did you come on the podcast?
Well, I came in the podcast to help spread the word about global ground support and how important it is for this company to be in the industry and how much we enjoy being in this industry.
Okay, brilliant. Now, as we get into, and I'll ask you to give us a bit of a background, one of your products, the ultimate one.
That is correct. The ultimate one is our top-of-the-line aircraft de-icer.
And there's me thinking it was you.
Yes, I'm Ultimate 2.
You're Ultimate 2, yeah? So we were going to go through it. Right, so as you know, and we had a little chat before, getting to know the people behind the position and for people thinking of coming into the industry, one of the sort of pictures I try and put in people's minds is when they get on an aeroplane to go on holiday or business or whatever, and they look out the window, they see a few things, but many people don't realise everything that goes on around that aircraft. And obviously, you're one of the jigsaw pieces that's so integral. So how did you actually get into this business?
I have always been interested in aviation, but it's a story that goes all the way back to when I was a teenager. When I was 14, my family went on a trip to Florida, and we boarded an Eastern Airlines 727. As I walked into the aircraft and walked past the cockpit, I stuck my head in, as kids do. They are so interested in that secretive place that's up there where the pilots sit. And the captain looked at me and said, hey, would you like to start the engines? And I enthusiastically said yes. So I went into the cockpit and started all three of the engines on a 727, and it was very exciting. We departed the gate. About 5 minutes after we were in flight, the flight attendant came back and asked if I'd like to go up and sit in the cockpit for the flight to Florida, which I, again, agreed to. And that had me hooked. From that point on, I decided that I wanted to be in aviation. I wanted to be a pilot. And it's been a long 35 years since then.
Okay, but you pursued it and you got your license.
I did. I started flying the following year when I was 15 and got my private pilot's license. Ended up going to university so I could major in aviation management and got all of my follow-up flight licenses, commercial instrument multi-engine pilot's licenses, and eventually joined the airlines and entered this industry.
And something that I've always, because I lived in Miami for a little while, and when I've been on beaches all around the world and you see these guys with these lovely little aircraft, it looks as if they're flying not much faster than I could run, or in those days I could run. So I understand you had a little bit of experience with pulling banners.
That was my first job after college. My first pilot's job was pulling banners along a beach in Connecticut, which was, again, it's a great way to build hours, which is what young pilots want to do, because most of the airlines require a significant number of active flight hours flying commercially before they'll even interview you. So any way you can build those hours, and pulling banners is one of them. So it was a great first job in the industry.
And it's pretty dangerous, huh?
It is. I think pulling banners kills more pilots than almost any other aviation-related job because, like you said, you're flying very, very slow. You're flying very, very low, and it just takes a few minutes of dozing off or not paying attention. It can be end up with tragic results.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's terrible.
It's terrible, but it's also, it's for most pilots, any opportunity you have to fly is a great opportunity. So.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. And that came to an end because
that came to an end because that was right at the time that Eastern Airlines went out of business, and my boss came up to me one day and said that a good friend of his that had 3 kids and a family had just lost his job at Eastern, and he was going to get my job pulling banners. So I ended up finding the next job that I could, which was for Korean Airlines, actually, at JFK on the management side. So, and I've been on the management side ever since.
Okay, brilliant. Now, we've got to mention, it's quite topical at the moment. There's a little bit of a link with the Trump Shuttle.
So when I was a senior in college, my first job was as an intern to the Trump Shuttle. I was an intern in the executive offices for the Trump Shuttle, and that was an experience that I'll never forget.
Okay, and being a politically correct American, obviously I won't push you on that, but I can say it. Terrible things happening at the moment around the world, whether it's Trump, whether it's China, the US, Brexit. There's got to be a break in all this. It looks like apathy and demonising of everybody. There's got to be some good news coming eventually.
I think that we are in a pretty unique political situation, but that as a race, we're very resilient, and I think things will come around, and I think there's going to be light at the end of the rainbow soon enough.
Yes, yeah, we're all hoping the same. Now, how did you get into global?
So, during my career, I spent the vast majority of my career with American Airlines in several different positions. Ended up for the last 7 years of my tenure with American as the operations manager for the Chicago hub, and one of my responsibilities in that position was the de-icing operation at O'Hare for American Airlines. We had 55 de-icing trucks. The last year that I ran the operation, we de-iced almost 12,000 airplanes. And I was a customer of Global Ground Support, and when this position became open, I was approached and asked if I'd be interested in joining the team.
It's great, but I mean, people just explain to people. You know, when people are sitting on, and I've done it myself. You're sitting on an aircraft, getting ready to, and then the captain says, "I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a little bit of delay. We're going to be de-iced, etc." And you can see some people, they're thinking, "What does it mean, de-ice? What's going to happen? You know, is it going to ice up again by the time we've stopped?" Do you want to explain a little bit about the process and?
So I'm one of the few people that has been interested and involved in de-icing in almost every aviation-related job that I've had over the last 35 years. And
so you're a pretty cool customer by now, huh?
And I've also become very involved in something called the SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers.
Okay.
And the SAE has a division, an aviation division called G12, which is completely devoted to aircraft de-icing. So I have been the system chair for G12, reporting directly to the SAE Aerospace Council for the last 20 years. Ooh. From my time with American up through the 15 years that I've been with Global. And the SAE G12 actually develops all of the training procedures, all of the equipment requirements, all of the fluid requirements. It's attended by all of the major airlines, all of the regulatory agencies, all of the airframe manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus and Embraer. And all together, we are a group that develops the processes, procedures, and regulations that all of the airlines follow worldwide.
And the reason I'm going to ask you something now. So it's similar to the fueling, yeah? So everybody comes together. There's no exceptions.
That is correct. We all come together, we develop the processes and the procedures, and then the regulatory agencies, the FAA, the Europeans, the Asians, they all adopt these as regulations which become law. And then the airlines and all the operators must then follow those processes and procedures. So I've been involved intimately, along with others in the industry, and it is a group effort to do this. And it's a lot of work, but again, we're all there because we all care.
Yep. No, 100%. But I just find it good that everybody agrees. So all the carriers and everybody involved, they can all agree on a part of the business. But in so many other parts, they can't agree. There's exceptions to everything.
There are exceptions to everything. But I think when it comes to safety, no one wants to compromise safety.
Yeah.
No one wants to compromise the health of the passengers, the safety of the passengers, and that's where we all agree, is what needs to be done to run this industry where there are no tragedies. That is the ultimate goal of everyone.
Exactly.
De-icing, when we first started speaking about this, it is a process, and it's one of the few processes that if it's not done correctly, the results can be tragic.
Yep.
And what de-icing is when snow, freezing rain, any frozen contamination falls and adheres to the surfaces of the aircraft, to the wings, the ailerons, the rudder, and those are called critical aircraft surfaces. And the way airplanes fly is when an airplane goes down the runway and gets to a certain speed, the wings create lift. And if there's any contamination on the wings, well, guess what? And unfortunately, there have been many instances like the Air Florida crash that crashed into the Potomac River. That was directly related to snow and ice contaminating the surfaces, and only a handful of people survived that crash. So anything we can do to prevent another tragedy, that's all we care about in the SAE.
No, exactly. And the time, once it's been done, how long time from when it's been de-iced before taking off, before it would have to be re-de-iced?
So there's a lot of variables there. There's what is the temperature and what is the type of precipitation. So in a major blizzard with heavy snow, when you de-ice and then you apply a second coating, an anti-icing coating, to protect the aircraft surface, you can have as little as 15 minutes or 10 minutes after that second coating, but you can have as much as an hour and a half, depending on.
So it depends where you are.
It depends on the type of precipitation and the temperature.
All right, that makes sense. That's good. Now, as far as consistency and all the carriers and everybody coming together, something that it always baffles me. Even things like cones. The number of bloody cones cannot be agreed by all carriers.
There are. For de-icing, the carriers don't always agree on the pattern the trucks should drive around the aircraft. Each carrier has their own pattern. So there are many things where each believe that their way to do it is the best, but in the end, with the cones or with the pattern, the end result is what matters. The end result of having a clean aircraft before departure. Everyone achieves the same goal. So how you get to the goal, some people think they have a better way than others.
It always amazes me, and it still will. Now, getting back to the ultimate one, and something that's good now that people are doing as far as they're developing all over the business. Just reading a little bit of information about it. So, reduce time and labour for preventive maintenance. Okay, so simplicity and sustainability and all of those good points are so important now in everything that goes on. So do you want to just cover a few of these extra efforts that you guys have gone into? Because it says clearly that the vehicles look the same, but the modifications now and the improvements are very, very beneficial, including you've got your filters and electric boxes in one location. So again, for convenience, which is great, and also everything being accessible from the ground.
And all of that is a result of the modifications made. So from 1997 to 2017, we used two engines in our de-icers. We had a chassis engine for propulsion, and then we had an auxiliary engine in the back, and that ran all of the hydraulics. And what we did is we modified the entire system and reduced it to just one engine to run all of the components. So we reduced an entire 6-cylinder diesel engine from the vehicle. Now that decreases costs, but that's also how you decrease maintenance. But the big key is that we reduced fuel consumption by 72%.
Oh, very good.
So when you look at an aircraft de-icer that can be used 14 hours a day for months on end, especially in some of the colder climates, that fuel consumption reduction is a major point for our customers. And we've seen that. The Ultimate One came out in 2017, and this year, Global is having the best sales year in the history of the company, and we are going to manufacture close to 100 Ultimate One de-icers that are being sold to 11 countries around the world, the vast majority going to North America, but it's been a very exciting new vehicle to sell.
That's great, huh? And also good for the environment.
Good for the environment, good for the customers. Yes.
No, that's very, very good. It just, when you develop the next one, it's going to be difficult to get something that stands out from the ultimate one, isn't it?
I will tell you that we have a project that is going on right now that I can't talk about, which is going to revolutionize the industry, and I'm very, very excited about the future. So to say the ultimate one is the pinnacle of what we're going to do, not even close. When I decided to come to work for Global, I had been approached by other manufacturers over the years, and I turned them down because they were larger corporations that had very bureaucratic levels of management. Global is a very small company. People are shocked to understand that a company that does $50 to $60 million a year in sales, we have 55 employees. Yeah. That's it. And that's production and engineering and finance, sales. So we're a very small company, but we're very, very efficient. And we've been able to lead the industry because of our new technologies, because we've been able to develop new processes, new technologies, and new equipment that make us the best.
That's good. And you also head up the R&D section as well.
I do.
You're a man with many hats.
I'm a man with many hats, but again, I consider myself to be a very, very lucky guy. I'm in a profession that I love, that I've always wanted to be involved in. I work for a great company, and I get to make changes. I get to develop new things that have a direct and immediate impact on the industry, and that's very fun. That's exciting.
No, it is, and it shows. You've got an infectious enthusiasm, and I'm sure all the colleagues, if they hear the podcast, they'll see how pleased you are to be part of that team. So it's brilliant. Now, if you were to come back in 5 years' time, what changes would you like to see in the industry?
I think that the industry is going through some very significant changes right now, especially when it comes to automation, when it comes to telemetry. Because I used to say that when I ran the de-icing operation in Chicago, it was like herding cats. Have you heard that saying?
Yeah.
It was, we had 55 trucks running around. Well, today with technologies that we've developed like Midas, which is our in-truck telemetry system, you can see where every truck is based on its GPS location. You can see how much fluid is in all the tanks. You can see how much they've sprayed on each aircraft. So it, again, that is really what is changing the industry right now, is being able to see every piece of equipment out there, being able to visually understand how it's being utilized, so you don't have a tractor that's been sitting in a corner of the ramp for 4 weeks and no one's touched it. Now you're able to identify those things.
And those sort of technological improvements, they're coming across the whole industry. So it's only going to be better, I think, moving forward. And that's what we need, optimization. You need people to be more efficient. So I think that's good. Now, as far as the improvements with your own business, what is it that makes you guys keep wanting to change and to develop?
Well, I think it's not just change, it's innovate. And we have competitors. And not only do we have competitors domestically, we have competitors internationally. And you have to build a better mousetrap. Yeah. Today, people, they're not interested in just buying the cheapest. They went through that phase years ago where all that mattered was price. And people very quickly found out that if you're going to buy based on price only, you're going to get what you pay for, which is junk.
Yeah, which is
so.
Big message now going out to a lot of other parts of the business here.
That is correct.
So I'm sure there's some people really keen on this one.
We decided to focus on building a top quality product, but also develop technologies that will allow it to be better utilized by the customers. So a number of years ago, I developed an aircraft de-icing simulator. It was one of the first simulators for the de-icing industry. And 2 years ago, we did a complete revamp because now we have these Oculus Rift virtual reality goggles that can be used. So we redid the simulator. So now it's a full virtual reality simulator. And in addition to having full virtual reality, we incorporated multiplayer functionality into the simulator. So now multiple people from different locations around the world can all log in and compete against each other to de-ice an aircraft. De-icing fluid is very expensive. It can range anywhere from $8 to $15 per gallon in some locations. And when you're spraying hundreds of gallons per aircraft, it can be a very expensive thing to do for the airlines. So if you're able to have your operators be more proficient and save 10, 20, 40% of the fluid they might have sprayed on that aircraft.
That's a good point,
Take 10, 20, or 40% less time to de-ice that aircraft. Those have significant operational impacts for our customers. Yeah. So that's what we focused on. We focused on building equipment, building technologies that allow our equipment to be better utilized, and that's had some great results.
So you'll be able to do certain competitions for youngsters to come.
We do, and we do that today. It's a lot of fun to sit down, and some of our customers will offer monthly bonuses to whoever gets the high score on the simulator, because that is encouraging their employees to get on. And since our simulator uses the actual joysticks and components, and when you look around, it looks like you're 35, 40 feet in the air. So they get that training in a simulator instead of having to learn how to do the process live on an aircraft.
No, that's, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think it'll ever be automated?
I think that we'll eventually get there.
Yeah?
I think we'll eventually get there. The problem with automation is that it's one of those processes that if you miss snow, if you miss ice, and that aircraft is not clean, the results could be tragic. So we want it to be a safe process. And there's going to have to be a lot of developments in other areas, like ice detection, cameras that can see the ice, and that's been worked on for 2 decades now. So there have to be a few other breakthroughs before we can take that step into semi-autonomous. It'll never be fully autonomous, but into that step into semi-autonomous.
But it is going to come, isn't it? Because it'll be able to pick out the contour and the size of the different aircraft type.
I think that it will happen eventually, but it's probably going to be quite a while before de-icing is able to do that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be thinking what can happen, but it also makes you think, ooh,
Again, the industry is changing and growing, but we are seeing a huge impact right now with new technologies.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times. Now, away from all of that and away from all of your multi-hat responsibilities, what do you do to relax, de-stress, de-ice? What do you do?
Well, I on a personal level, I love to restore old cars and motorcycles. That's what I do to sort of decompress. Yeah. There's nothing like getting on a motorcycle and driving around the countryside to forget your everyday work worries and stresses. So that's one of my favorite hobbies.
And what bikes do you ride?
So I have several different motorcycles. I have an old Moto Guzzi Eldorado. It's an old Los Angeles police bike. For several years, Moto Guzzi supplied motorcycles to the LAPD. So I found this Moto Guzzi Eldorado. Had been sitting outside in a barn for 15 years and was able to do a complete restoration on it on my own. And again, that was in the days before the internet. Today, when you're restoring something, it's amazing when you can go on YouTube and search for some little component or some little how-to, and in the old days you were sitting in shops and talking to mechanics, so it's a very exciting thing.
That's amazing. You must be very proud. Now, just to get a picture of that particular bike, is that before or around the same time as, remember the CHIPS program that had the old, the big bikes?
And they still have CHIPS today, of course, because that's California Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
And they ride Harley Davidsons. And this was an LAPD bike, which is, again, not the California Highway Patrol, but the Los Angeles Police Department. So there was a movie back in the 70s with Clint Eastwood where there were a bunch of rogue LAPD highway police officers. And in that movie, they do use the Moto Guzzi's.
We'll have to try and get the name of that. Mm-hmm. I love anything with Clint Eastwood. And you love biking.
I do.
Yeah, and have you had any near misses?
Well, I think, it's not when you're going to, it's not if you're going to, it's when you're going to. So it's, I don't know if you've heard the saying, all the gear, all the time. I think it's critical that anybody that rides, make sure that you wear full protective gear, that you wear a helmet, because anybody that thinks they're not going to be in an accident someday is fooling themselves.
Well, that's worrying because I've got three brothers and they're all bikers. So Kieran, John, Joe, and Mick, and they love it. And for Kieran's birthday next year, he wants all of us to do a ride round the wild Atlantic coast of Ireland.
And that sounds like an incredible thing to do.
It does.
I'll join you. So just let me know when.
I'm starting to think, with all the turns and the bends and
But it's just like aviation. If you prepare for the worst, then you're going to have a pretty safe adventure.
Yeah.
So it's all about preparation and preparing for the worst.
I'm thinking of taking a support vehicle, a pickup or something.
Exactly.
Just following them around with all the gear.
Charlie Borman.
Yeah.
Long way up.
Exactly, yeah. No, brilliant. And now, let me ask you something. Kids, I know you got 5 kids.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so it's a good full house. Now, understand as well you got 2 twin girls.
I do. I have Charlotte, Charlie, and Skylar, and they just turned 7.
Oh, fantastic. That's brilliant. Now, also, this is something that I want to ask you from the boys' side of things. Your eldest son, Griffin, he's in the business now.
I'm very excited. Griffin started working for Global Ground Support about 6 months ago, and he works in our production facility, and I'm very excited to have the next generation of Walsh already working for Global.
Okay, fantastic. And what convinced him, apart from obviously seeing, how well you've done and your enthusiasm and everything? Was that a natural progression for him?
I don't think it was a natural progression for him. I think that he came to understand what a great company it is. One of the things that I love about Global is we have a very tenured workforce. We have employees now. We still have a half a dozen employees that were working for Global when our company built the first de-icer in 1988.
My goodness.
And to think about a staff of 50 and still having a half a dozen employees that have been there for that many years, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's good.
That doesn't happen very often these days. Our average management has been with the company for almost 17 years on average, which is, again, amazing. Our CFO has been there for 19 years, and I've been there for 15 years. Our director of marketing has been there for 17 years. We're a very well-tenured organization.
No, that's great. Now, he's coming in, he's fresh, he's new, he's enthusiastic, he wants to do things his way. And it's a big thing about letting youngsters come in and feel free to fail, but fail quickly so that they learn. What sort of special training or coaching exercises do you give him, knowing that everybody else has got so much experience and you need him to get into the whole business as quick as possible?
Well, again, it's not just him. It's any new employee that we get. We don't want to do anything that's going to impact the quality of our product, that's going to impact anything that might hurt our customer experience. So everyone in the facility understands how critical it is that they focus on our customers, our customer satisfaction, and our product quality. And there's a lot of training that goes into that. There's a lot of personal development that goes into that. And it is critical because we do not have a lot of turnover. So when we bring employees in, we're bringing people in for the next decade.
Okay, that's good. And you do ongoing training and competency testing?
All the time. And not only because that allows us to keep the workforce educated. And, I think inherently as humans, we all want to learn. We all want to have personal growth and development.
Yeah.
And allowing your employees to do that, gives them a lot of self-worth also. Some other industries, they're afraid that if they train their employees, that they're going to leave them. Yeah. Well, I'd rather train people and have them leave than have bad and untrained employees working for me.
Exactly. That's what people they've got to be a lot more confident. Management, because that's such a crazy thing.
Again, if you offer an environment that is a good place to work, if you have a good product and a good work environment, then employees are going to stay.
Exactly, 100%. Now, as far as we say risk management and crisis management, so obviously you're doing something to prevent a crisis, but you've obviously seen things that have gone wrong. So what types of risk management and crisis management does your organization get involved in?
Well, again, we go through our ISO certification, and that covers a lot of the risk management pieces in the new ISO certification. But we do focus on ensuring that all of our vendors, because the one thing about global ground support is we outsource almost all of our manufacturing.
Yeah.
So the individual components are all designed by us, and we own the drawings, but then we outsource the manufacturing of those individual components to a number of vendors.
Yep.
And being able to ensure that you have your supply chain management in place, because we could have $10 million worth of product coming down the production line, and if one single component fails to arrive, because all of our inventory is JIT, just-in-time inventory, and if components don't arrive as they're expected at the facility, it could shut us down for an extended period of time. So a lot goes into that, and our CEO does an amazing job when it comes to production and our supply chain management. So we have a great team in place, and it's really that is the key to success. Is no individual will ever guarantee success for a company. It's team and team only to guarantee success.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, together everyone achieves more. Now, as far as the components and parts, how far spread do they come from?
For us, about 85% of our components come within a 50-mile radius of Kansas City.
Okay, so that's good.
And that is where we're located. We're located in a suburb of Kansas City, and it's a great place to be. We are about 60 kilometers from the geographical center of the United States. And for supply chain management, for distribution, it's a great location to be in.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, brilliant. Now, just going off track a little bit off piste here. If I was to ask the boys, okay, what would they like their dad to change, or what would they like to change in their dad? What would it be?
The first thing would be is a lot less travel.
Yeah, and you do a lot.
I do a lot of traveling, and that's one of the hardest parts. Is this week I'm here and missing my son's football game on Thursday night, and it's part of the job. It's part of the industry. I have been able to visit a large swath of the world and visit customers and locations that I never would have been to if it weren't for this job. So I am very, very lucky. But I think if you were to ask any of the kids what their first choice would be, it was for me to be around a little bit more.
And what position does he play?
He plays actually in American football. He plays center and outside linebacker. He plays both ways.
Okay. So he's a strong boy.
He is a strong boy, yes.
Yeah, I can see where he gets it from, so fair play. Now, music. Another question I'd ask him. What's the music, what's the one song that would make you get up and jump and dance no matter where you were, what the situation was, what would it be?
Well, I'm a big Dave Matthews fan. So I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Matthews Band.
I've got to be honest, no.
Okay. So he's incredible performer. He's an incredible live musician. Probably my go-to music right now. So that would be my choice.
Yeah, and is it upbeat? Is it slow? Is
It's
relaxing?
All of the above. It's a very eclectic mix.
Yeah. Okay.
So some of it's very acoustic.
Ah, right. Here we go. Look at that. Got a picture of the man there as well. He looks a happy chappy.
He's an incredible musician.
Dave Matthews Band. No, brilliant. I'll have to have a look at that. Nice one. Right, so we're nearing the end of it. The podcast, that is. Got another question for you. Okay, if you were to do anything else, what industry would it be? And it couldn't be in the aviation industry.
If it wouldn't be one of my greatest loves growing up is being on the water. So if I were to leave the aviation industry, I would be in the marine industry in some way or another. I love boating, I love sailing, and I think I'm most relaxed when I'm on the water. So that would probably be the industry that I would get into.
Okay, very good. And lastly, mentors or coaches who've helped you in your career. Anybody you'd like to mention and why?
You know what? There have been my first boss when I was with Business Express, which was a Delta Connection carrier. Her name was Valerie Rybluski, and she was, someone that, and she probably is shocked that I would even remember her name from that long ago, if she's even still alive, but she was a true mentor. She really helped me, and when I started with American Airlines, there was a gentleman named Paul Cody that hired me to work in Boston for American Airlines, and then was a mentor and was a real supportive father figure for all the years that I worked in American, and helped me get most of the jobs that I had during my career with American Airlines. And I remember everything that Paul's done for me, and really cherish the person he let me grow into as a manager. So yes, I do have quite a few people that I think about quite often that helped me become the person that I am today in the industry.
That's nice. It's nice that you said that you think about them often.
I do,
and,
actually.
Too many times people don't appreciate those that gave them a chance, or those that turned them into part of the person that they are now, and especially the capabilities. It's important to reflect and remember. Also keeps them going as well.
It does. And I'm glad that I was able to meet with Paul, because he's no longer with American either. And a couple of years ago, I was able to tell him what an impact he had on my career and me as a person. So I'm glad that I was even able to let him know.
That's even nicer. That's better. Brilliant. Right, we're almost at the end. What I said at the beginning was that we'd come up with a title of a book that's going to be the reference to you on our site and our podcast series. So what I'm calling it is From Pulling Banners to Repairing Wrecks, One Lucky Man.
I agree. I'm a very lucky guy.
Yeah, you've mentioned it so many times, and I love that. I love anybody that's positive and always got a smile in their eyes as well as on their face. So I'm very, very pleased for you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on board.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to hearing from you again. And also, what's going to come and replace the ultimate one?
I'll be back.
It's a little bit like, I'll be back. Yeah, Arnie. No, but it's a little bit like the superheroes, isn't it? You think, how can they get another title that's even more of a high impact than the previous one? So the ultimate one is coming.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Chris.
you so much. Thank you.